Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are starting our first math video of the year. A couple reminders is we still are going to be using our green pen and our red pen. Remember, the red pen means I want you to stop, not write anything, and just watch what I'm doing. The green pen means I expect you to have that on your paper as well. So everything I write in green, you are going along with me. If I'm going too fast, then you just need to pause the video so you can catch up. But everything that I have in green, I expect to be on your paper when I check it in the morning. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today's lesson, we are on Module 1, Lesson 3, and our title is Powers of 10. So we're going to be doing powers of 10. We're also going to be talking about something new called exponents. So exponents. So I'm going to say our title today is Using Exponents to Multiply and Divide Powers of 10. Okay, so I'm going to turn my paper this way, and we're going to talk about what these exponents are. Okay, so we're going to start with powers of 10, which means we're always going to start with a 10. So we're always going to start in the tens column. So I'm going to put one dot there saying I have 110. Okay, now if I look over here, it says an equation, but I only see 100. So what equals 100 using tens? Well, if I'm in the tens now and I want to get to the hundreds column, I'm going to have to move this 110 to get to the hundreds. Now remember, what we've talked about is each column is worth either 10 times more or 10 times less. Since I moved where the value increases, this would be times 10. Now, since I already was starting with a 10, I already started with a 10, and now I multiplied it by a 10 to get to 100. That means my equation is 10 times 10, which many of you already knew that. Okay, so what does this exponent mean? An exponent, you've probably seen, it's when there's a larger number, we call it its base, and then there's something small in the right-hand corner. So my exponential form would be, since I have tens, that's going to be my base, my larger number, and because there's 1, 2 of them, that's going to be my exponent. So this is called my base. I'm going to even write that there. That's called my base. And then this up here is called my exponent. The little number on the right is called my exponent. Okay, often, and I'm going to write this in red because I don't want you to write this, but often people see this and they think that that means 10 times 2, which would equal 20. That is incorrect. This does not mean 10 times 2. The base means I have tens, and the exponent means I have 2 of them. And that's what we see over here, 10 times 10. Okay, let's look at another one. So now, because it's powers of 10, I'm going to start with a 10 again. What would I have to do to get to 1,000? Well, I'm going to have to move it 1 place value column, 1 place value column. And I know both place value columns are tens, worth 10 times. So I started with a 10, and I'm going to multiply it times 10 times 10, which tells me that the equation is 10 times 10 times 10. And how I would write that in exponent form would be, I have tens, which is my base number, and I have 1, 2, 3 of them being multiplied, which is my exponent. So this we call exponential form. This we call our equation form. And then we also have this, which we call standard form. So I'm going to write that there. We call that standard form. So when we just write it regular, that is called standard form. So those are our different forms right there. Okay, let's turn the page and try our next one. And we're gonna actually skip down to this one where it says 100,000. Okay, so again, I'm gonna start with a 10. And what do I need to do to get to 100,000? Well, I'm gonna move it one place value to the hundreds, another place value to the thousands, another place value to the 10,000s, and then one more place value to the 100,000s. And each place value is worth times 10, or 10 times more. So what did we do? We started with a 10, and then we multiplied it by 10, and then we multiplied it by 10, and we multiplied it by 10, and we multiplied it by 10. So this is my equation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tens, which means my exponent will be a 5 and my base will be a 10. And we actually, the way we say this is 10 to the 5th power. That's why we call these powers. 10 to the 5th power. So we have standard form, we have our expanded form or our equation, and then we have our exponential form. Okay, we're going to skip a few of these, but we're going to go down to this one because this one sometimes is tricky. Okay, we just have a 10 here. So I'm going to put my 10, and that's it. I'm not going to move it anywhere, which means I only have a 10. I'm not going to multiply it at all. So when I go to write this in exponential form, my base would be a 10, and then I only have one of them, so my exponent would be a 1. But when we have an exponent of 1, we don't actually write it. So we're just going to have a 10. So we don't use exponents for a 1 because it means there's only one of them. So again, we have standard form. The equation form would be the same, and exponential form would be the same as well. Okay, I'm going to flip back because I want to see if you've kind of caught on to, maybe if you were able to notice some patterns here. Look at when the exponent of a 10 is a 2, and look at it in standard form. Look, what do you notice? Look when the exponent was a 3, and look at it in standard form. I'm going to flip back. Look at when the exponent was a 5. What do you notice about the standard form? Hopefully you're catching on that when we're dealing with tens only, powers of 10, the exponent will match the number of zeros in our standard form. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to turn and actually do some problems now together. So please turn to page 29. It should look like this. Okay, so I'm going to do some in red pen. You can put your pencil down and watch. Here is my first problem. And we've done this in the previous lesson. We have 10,000 times 100. So in the previous lesson, I could use my place value chart to do this. So I'm going to show you on my place value chart, I could start with, I have 10,000. So I have one 10,000. And I'm going to multiply it by 100. So I'm going to move it over 10, and I'm going to move it over 10 more. So times 10 and times 10, which two place values is the same as times 100. And where do I end up? In the millions. So I think my answer should be 1 million. Okay, we also talked about in class though, kind of a shortcut of way to do these is I could say, I have 1 times 1 will give me 1. And when I multiply, I'm going to count my zeros. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. And that's another way that I could solve this. Okay, number 2 looks a little different though. When I see number 2, I see this exponent. So I want to change the exponent to be standard form. So that's the first thing I want to do, is I know that 10 exponent 3 is, or 10 to the 3rd power would be 1,000. So the first thing I want to do is that. And then I could get my sheet if I'd like. And I could say I have 1,000. And I'm going to move it over 1, 2, 3 place values, which would end up in the millions again. So my answer, I believe, should be 1 million. Now, if I was to do this without using my place value chart, what I would have done was, I would have done exactly what I just did. I changed my exponent to standard form, and then I multiplied my non-zeros, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 zeros are in my factors, so I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros in my product. Okay, so I'm using the place value charts just to see if it makes sense, but I think that this strategy is a much more efficient strategy. So let's try some together. But before we do that, what did I do? We're going to take some notes. The first thing I did was I picked up my green pen, so please pick up your pen and join me. The first thing I did was I did not use my exponents. I wanted to change my exponents. So that was the first thing. So I want you to rewrite without exponents. That was the first thing I did, is I want to rewrite without exponents. And what I rewrote 10 to the third power into is 1,000. So that's called standard form. That was the first thing I did. The second thing I did is I multiplied, but we're also going to do division problems. So I'm going to say multiply or divide non-zeros. So I multiplied 1 times 1 and got 1. And then the third thing I did was I took care of my zeros. So those are the steps I did when I did these first two problems. So now let's try some together. Okay, so for number 3, I see 7 times 10 to the second power, or we often call that 10 squared. And we'll talk more about that, 10 squared. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this without the exponent. So what is 10 squared the same as? Well, 10 squared is the same as 10 times 10, which would be 100. So I know it's 7 times 100. Okay, the second thing we're going to do is multiply or divide the non-zeros. So I have 7 times 1 is 7. And the third thing I'm going to do is take care of my zeros. So because I'm multiplying and I have 2 zeros total in my factors, I'm going to have 2 zeros total in my products. So my answer should be 700. Okay, let's do our next one together. So again, we're going to rewrite without exponents. So 10 to the third power means I have 10 times 10 times 10, which would be 1,000. So I have 300 times 1,000. Okay, now we're going to multiply or divide the non-zeros. So I have 3 times 1 equals 3. And because it's multiplication, we're going to add the zeros in our product. So I have 1, 2, 3, add the zeros in our factors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros in my product, and I get 300,000. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you can set your pens down, and I'm going to do a couple division for you to see how we can use the same strategies to help us. Okay, so my first one is 10,000 divided by 10 to the second power, or what we say 10 squared. Okay, so that means I'm starting with 10,000, and 10 squared means I'm going to have 10 times 10, 2 tens. And since I'm dividing it, it's going to go down the place value chart in value. So I'm going to end up with 100. So I believe, using the place value chart, my answer is 100. Let's see if that works out when I use the mathematical, maybe more efficient strategy. So I'm going to use the same steps I had before. I'm going to say I have 10,000 divided by, and I'm going to rewrite it without the exponents, divided by 100, because 10 squared is 100, or 10 exponent 2. And then step 2 says I'm going to multiply or divide non-zeros. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. And now because I'm dividing, I'm actually losing zeros. So if I look at my place value chart, you're losing zeros as you go down. So my divisor has 2 zeros, which means my dividend is going to lose 2 zeros. So I'm saying it's going to be 100. So I'm going to take away zeros from the number I'm starting with. And I got the same answer. Okay, so let's look at number 6. This time I'm starting with 1,000,000. So I'm going to show you on my place value chart. I'm starting with 1,000,000. And I'm going to divide by 10 to the 3rd power, or 10 cubed. So I'm going to go down the place value chart 3 places. And I believe my answer then should be 1,000. So let's see if I get 1,000 when I use my more efficient strategy. 1,000,000 divided by, and 10 exponent 3, rewriting without exponents, is 1,000. Okay, so I have 1 divided by 1 is 1, and my divisor has 3 zeros, so I'm going to take away 3 zeros, and I'm left with 1,000. So my efficient strategy worked. Okay, let's try a few together. Okay, so my first problem says 9,000 divided by 10 exponent 3, or 10 to the 3rd power, or sometimes we say 10 cubed. So let's rewrite it without the exponent. So in standard form, that would be 1,000. And then let's multiply or divide my non-zeros. So 9 divided by 1 is 9. And then my dividend has 3 zeros, which means I'm going to be moving it along down the place value chart 3 spaces. So I'm going to go down 3 and lose those 3 zeros. So I am left with just 9. We can put our answer there. Okay, our final one is 360,000 divided by, okay, 10 exponent 4 means 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Or you can use the little hint and realize that it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, which is 10,000. So again, we got rid of our exponent and put it in standard form. And then we're going to do our non-zeros. 36 divided by 1 is 36. And then because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in my divisor, I'm going to take off 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in my dividend, and I am left with just 36. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in your packet you will see some extra help if you need some more help with this, and then you will also see your homework page for the night. Your homework is just page 21. You could do page 22 if you'd like, but I will be expecting you to do page 21. On the bottom of page 21, what I'd like you to do is, after you've solved the problems, I'd like you to look at the very bottom, and I'd like you to write on here how you felt. So you're going to write either a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4, and you're going to put a big circle around it and let me know how you felt. So if you put a 1, you're telling me, yikes, I'm not feeling so great with this lesson. I think I need some help. I would like to sit in your group, Miss Munoz, and get some extra support. If you're putting a 2, you're letting me know it's starting to make sense, but I probably still need some help from you for a few minutes, or you need some help from a classmate, but you need a little help. If you're telling me a 3, that means you're good to go. Everything made sense and you're on the right track to pass the test. You're going to be successful. If you're telling me a 4, that means that you're willing to help tutor someone, because not only do you understand it, you can teach it. So please make sure you put one of these numbers down here so I know how you're feeling and I can give you all the help you need tomorrow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening. Please make sure you do your homework and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.